Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I'm Sheri Lopez, human trafficking survivor and founder of Pearl at the Mailbox. Thank you for spending some of your time with me today. Today's topic is one that can be uncomfortable, but it's also one of the most important conversations we can have. Because today we're talking about grooming in trusted roles. We're talking about coaches, teachers, mentors, youth leaders, pastors, volunteers, employers, family friends, and other adults who naturally hold positions of trust. Now, before we go any further, I want to make something very clear. The vast majority of people serving in these roles are wonderful people. They're making a difference every day. They're encouraging kids. They're mentoring young people. They're changing lives for the better. This episode, it's not about creating suspicion toward everyone. It's about understanding that trust itself can sometimes be exploited. And because trust is involved, these situations can be very difficult for families and communities to recognize. If you think about it, we naturally trust certain people. As parents and as communities, we place trust in people for good reasons. We trust teachers to educate our children. We trust coaches to encourage them. We trust pastors to guide them. We trust mentors to support them. Trust isn't bad, trust is necessary. Communities couldn't function without it. But here's what I've learned both as a survivor and through years of educating others. Predators, predators, they get it. Predators understand the power of trust. And they understand that people are much less likely to question someone they know, admire, or respect. That doesn't mean trusted people are dangerous, but it does mean that positions of trust can be misused. And most people expect danger to look different. I think it's a big misconception that people have is that dangerous people are always easy to spot. People think they can often picture strangers, someone suspicious, someone everyone dislikes. But that's usually not reality. In many cases, the person is well liked. They may be charismatic, helpful, generous, funny, successful, and because they appear trustworthy, concerns are often dismissed. People say, he loves kids. She's always helping. He's so dedicated. Everyone knows him, and sometimes all of those things are true. But good reputation should never replace healthy boundaries. Because remember, grooming doesn't begin with abuse. It's an important thing that people need to understand. Grooming rarely begins with something obviously wrong. It often begins with something that appears positive, like encouragement, attention, compliments, being available, making someone feel important, making them feel understood. And that's exactly why it can be so confusing. Because if manipulation started with fear, most people would walk away, right? That makes sense. But that's not how it works. Relationships are built first. Trust is built first. Connection is built first. And sometimes by the time concerns become obvious, emotional attachment has already formed. And I understand this. When I was 15 years old, nobody approached me and announced they intended to exploit me. If they had, I would have run. Instead, it began with trust, attention, feeling seen, and being like I felt like I belonged. And that's why I say that trafficking rarely begins with trafficking. It begins with relationship building. And that's one reason survivors sometimes become frustrated when people ask, "Why didn't you just leave?" Because they don't understand what happened before the exploitation, the grooming. They don't understand the emotional connections that developed. And that's exactly why understanding grooming matters. And also, let's talk about families. Families often miss grooming because they're looking for obvious danger. But grooming rarely, it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, "Hey, I'm going to groom your child." The adult may seem incredibly invested in the child's success. They may offer rides, spend extra time helping, provide encouragement, attend every event because someone the family appreciates and trusts can, at some point, if they have the wrong motive, groom a child. And again, I want to say that people who do this, there's nothing wrong. There are amazing, caring people that are part of families all the time, and they're good people. But there are those that know how to push their way in and be considered a trusting person. You know, healthy adults support young people. The difference is found in boundaries. Healthy adults don't need secrecy with a child. Healthy adults don't slowly separate children from their parents. Healthy adults don't make themselves the center of a child's emotional world. Healthy relationships involve accountability. A healthy adult who's having interactions with the child, like a coach, a teacher, something like that, they don't object to transparency and they don't insist on privacy. They don't become offended when parents ask questions. Healthy adults understand that boundaries protect everyone. Good adults should want systems in place that protect children and protect themselves from misunderstandings. Because accountability, it isn't an accusation, it's wisdom. One of the hardest things about these situations is that communities often know one version of a person. Victims may know another. People naturally want to defend those they respect. That's understandable. Nobody wants to believe someone they admire could misuse trust, because sometimes public images and private behaviors are very different. That's why we should never automatically dismiss concern simply because someone is popular, respected, or successful. Titles don't guarantee character. Positions don't guarantee integrity. And admiration should never replace discernment. Sometimes people worry that talking about grooming creates fear. I don't believe that. I believe awareness creates protection. If we teach children about seat belts, we teach them to swim, we teach them to not run into traffic, not because we expect something bad to happen, but because preparation matters. The same is true here. Awareness is not paranoia, it's prevention. As a survivor, I think many of us want people to understand that grooming often happens in places built on trust: schools, churches, sports programs, youth organizations, communities, homes, and like I said, no zip code is ever immune. No organization is automatically immune. And acknowledging that isn't an attack on good people. In fact, it protects good people. Because when organizations create healthy boundaries and accountability, everyone benefits. Children are safer, families feel more confident, and trustworthy adults are protected as well. We just share some final thoughts. If there's one thing I hope you take away from today's conversation is this: trust is important, but trust and accountability should always go together. Healthy adults don't fear boundaries. Healthy adults don't require secrecy with children. Healthy adults understand that protecting children is everyone's responsibility, and prevention isn't about assuming the worst about people. It's about creating environments where exploitation has fewer opportunities to grow. Thank you for joining me today, and thank you for being willing to have these important conversations, because awareness matters and prevention matters. I invite you to visit pearlatthemailbox.org to learn everything that we do on the grooming side of things, and just all that we have going on at Pearl at the Mailbox. And together we can help create safer communities for next generations. Until then, Sheri Lopez, let's talk about it.